What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be focusing on eyesight. I know this is something that we haven't talked about before, and I'm here with Dr. Cameron McCrodin, who has this amazing clinic, Optimization, where he's working with me to improve. How would you explain it? Improve what? What am I?
Well, so most people think of vision really just as can we see it clearly or not? And what a lot of people don't realize is that our vision is also responsible for our speed of hand-eye reactions to the incoming information, where we think things are. And it plays an important role both in performance in the ring, performance in daily life when it comes to reading, screen time, focus, and a major role in concussion recovery and identifying some of the lingering things after concussion that often keep causing people symptoms beyond that sort of expected shorter recovery period.
Okay, perfect. Now, what I want you guys to see today is a couple. I don't want to give away all his secrets, but maybe a couple of the things that I've been doing to work on. And is it possible for you to give them maybe one small thing that they could work on?
Absolutely. I think we'll be able to provide a bit of value in that arena. And what I'd love to take you through is sort of what is the process of how do we look at these things? How do I identify that stuff? And then sort of show you a few things in action and kind of what we're working on with you.
Perfect. All right, guys, let's do it. So what I think everybody here and myself would really like to understand is the process that you go through basically examining somebody's eye and looking and seeing what needs to be done, because we do eye exams, but it's kind of like look at the letters on there. Oh, okay, yeah, you passed, you have 20/20 vision. A lot of people might not even know what that means.
Absolutely. So most eye exams are based on how clear you see things and, do you need a prescription to see clearly, as well as the physical health of the eye. The difference is that when we look at things, and for a lot of optometrists who work in the area of visual performance, we're also looking at how quickly can your eye change its focus, how well do your eyes work together, what's the accuracy of your depth perception like, and even how quickly can your eyes refocus when you move your head and change directions. Are you getting a lag of refocusing when you move your head and change, etc. too. So there's testing that goes above and beyond that. So the exam process, it's important, and everybody's really used to the regular eye exam. You go, you get your eyes checked, you get the health done. For fighters, that's a very common routine thing. Yeah. But the difference then is going, okay, well, not just can you see clear and is your eye healthy, but what's the performance of your eye? How accurately can they move, work together, refocus, and all of these things? How efficiently can you respond to peripheral stimulus too? So when you're fighting, and really so much of it is peripheral awareness, and not just peripheral awareness, but understanding where that thing is. So your block is only as accurate as where you think that punch is coming to or kick. For example, you get rattled or you change directions quickly or you turn. How quickly can you refocus on that person? And you'll watch a lot of people, and a lot of viewers probably have had pad partners or sparring partners who are still in the midst of post-concussion, struggling with some of this visual stuff. And you can almost watch it with people when you're doing it. You see them kind of often squinting and doing kind of weird stuff, almost trying to refocus sometimes when they're moving or after they get hit.
Yeah, the post-concussion stuff is scary. I'm lucky I've never been on that side. But the most interesting thing for me, because I always just kind of thought your eyes are your eyes. You have this set of eyes. I'm felt fortunate. I have pretty good eyesight, but I never thought about training my eyes in a way that's going to actually help them improve, where I'll be able to either dodge punches or see punches on an angle more. Yep. It never even occurred to me.
A lot of people don't think about it in the context of combat sports. For baseball, it's well studied. There's great stuff out there that shows changes to batting averages and fielding errors and all these things. So for example, I've got a baseball player I work with where if he's sitting on his phone for several hours before playing, his performance is lessened because his eyes basically fatigue from what he's doing on his phone. And then when he goes to play, his eyes can't change focus as quickly as they should.
That might have just been a golden nugget right there. If you guys are going in to fight, maybe you shouldn't be on your phone.
Well, because literally what happens is it's almost like sitting in terrible posture for the few hours before your competition, because you're straining your eyes to stay focused on a device, which is not natural for our human body. We haven't evolved to stare at distances that close. So vision for fighters and for combat sports, and honestly for so many athletes, but especially combat sports, is sort of three things. One, are there any opportunities for enhancing performance for when you're in the ring and when you're actually participating in the sport? 2, how do you make sure the things you're doing outside of your sport aren't inadvertently compromising how your vision works while you're in the ring and doing your sport? Third part is from a visual piece is often concussion recovery. You know, most people who are still symptomatic after a concussion after 3 or 4 weeks, especially after 3 weeks, have some lingering visual stuff. And it's pretty obvious. Light sensitivity, you know, they'll be sensitive to screens, busy places, more trouble reading, you know, a lot of things that are related to visual stimulus.
Should we go into talking about the concussion stuff a little bit? Because most people think about concussions, I'll deal with a concussion when I have a concussion.
Yep.
Is that a good mindset, or is there something that people should be doing beforehand? Or should we focus on something in here first with the screen and some testing?
I mean, you know, it's hard to say for the concussion thing as far as preventative stuff goes. There was one sort of exploratory study out of University of Cincinnati, and it showed that some players who'd had vision therapy and vision training beforehand had less concussions than their comparable cohort, but they don't really know whether it was preventative in some sense of like strengthened pathways or whether they were just more aware of when they were going to get hit. The jury's kind of out to lunch on that one.
Okay.
So, you know, there's nothing where you can really go, hey, do this because it's going to mean that you're not going to get concussed for things.
If you know when you're going to get hit,
Yeah.
then most likely it'll be less traumatic, which most people should know, right? I mean,
Yep.
if you get hit and you see it coming, you're going to take it a lot better than that shot that is
I much
completely
prefer to be
nowhere.
punched in the stomach when I'm ready for it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's similar to the head. So even that thought process there, you know, if I have better eyesight and I can see punches, even if they're going to hit me, it's going to help you. Like that is just so important to know. And a lot of people don't know that yet. So that's just another golden nugget right there.
And the key part to remember about what you just said with, you know, being aware of the punches, it's not just whether you see it or not, but it's how accurately is your brain processing it. So we really have to think about our vision almost like autopilot on a car or something like that, where, you know, there's seeing it, but then there's also how quickly and accurately is it calculating where that punch is and where is it going.
Okay.
Because a lot of people will see it, but it feels very different. Okay, so for example, with you here, even when we mimic that just a little bit, you know, there's often the difference between here. So for example, like look straight ahead. So if you're like looking at my chest here and just be aware of my hand moving,
Yeah.
and you slip that on and you're looking here
Yeah, it's so much more focused.
in your periphery for there.
Yes.
So, and that's the difference. So you can see it either way. It's just one, your system can process it much faster. And so it's not that we want you in the ring wearing glasses, but at least what those do immediately is they just help your system do it better. Which you want to achieve from a therapy standpoint, but it's helpful to be able to experience what I mean.
Yes, so that's what you did when I was here for the first time. You did the testing. You showed me, okay, my eyes are not as perfect as I thought they were.
Yeah.
You put some glasses
They're darn
on.
good. There's just, you know.
And then he put some glasses on me and he started doing this, and I went, whoa, why can I see everything so much more focused? And then I went, can we train this so I can actually be that way in the ring? Because I can't wear glasses.
No.
And if I could, I'd be like, I'm wearing those.
It'd be hilarious to roll up to the ring in them for the
yeah.
walk-in or something, but...
I already have pretty good defense. I actually just did an episode this morning on defense because a lot of people don't train it enough. And people ask me, like, you know, I'm really good at offense, but defense is scary when I'm on the end of it and the punches flash and I don't react.
Yeah.
And a lot of that potentially could be compromised eyesight.
Big time, because what happens too is that and one thing you may or may not have noticed there is that when your brain doesn't process the movement and depth and peripheral information as well, it also triggers your fight or flight system more. Ooh. So, you know, basically it makes it harder, and a lot of people will recognize this. You know, a lot of viewers, especially if they're struggling with visual stuff, maybe after a few good hits and things like that, concussion diagnosed or not, where they'll notice that it's like, you know, quick movements in front of their face kind of like startle them more or cause them to flinch more than they used to too. Yeah. And this is even, you know, trained fighters who, you know, would get very used to not flinching. But people, basically our brain, when it has more trouble processing and knowing where it is, it triggers an internal alarm more so. And, you know, as you're highly aware, the more calm you can stay and the more out of the fight or flight kind of piece, the better off you are.
Yes.
And so that's where that ties in visually. And that's literally what you experienced. You're like, hey, I put those on, and it's like you can tell where my hands are better in relation to you.
Yeah, it's wild how different it is. And I was just doing a private yesterday with somebody over Zoom, and the guy was saying, look, every time I go defensive, the only thing I want to do is run.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in that zone. And if we could show people just a little bit about how to start training that. So you guys obviously need to recognize how to block punches, but then increase your eyesight capabilities so that you're just that much more focused, I guess.
Yeah.
Would that be the
It's almost like it's just so your system can process it more accurately.
Okay.
And read it better. The same way you might get used to, using your vision in other capacities to read somebody's shoulder movements and body movements, understanding when they're about to throw or things like that. You can also train your visual system to get better at sort of decoding depth and processing that stuff. Like, for example, the reason those glasses made a bit of a difference to you is, most of our vision, so not just yours, but most people, especially with how much work we have up close that kind of fatigues us these days, their eyes might slip just a little bit with each other under certain environments. And if you can sort of tighten that up and have it more stable, we process things way faster. It's kind of like it comes into focus much quicker too.
Okay. So should we, is there anything else you want to do
Yeah,
here? Should we take these guys?
This is sort of the gist of the part. So, the process is you kind of examine, you check, you find your areas for opportunities both in and outside of the ring or recovering afterwards. But why don't we kind of give the viewers something fun and dig into at least kind of one activity that we've kind of been up to with you?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's head into, what do you call it, the exam room? No,
room. Back there, sort of some of the training area.
The training area. Let's go to the training area.
So one of the things that we're going to work at today is actually what we call split attention on the Synaptech system. And this is a system that's available through lots of athletic places and vision therapy centers too. And the core component of what we want to work on is basically the ability to maintain your focus and attention on a central target and really having to pay attention to it, but also responding to peripheral stimulus. And knowing, were you accurate in your response to peripheral stimulus or not? And there's a couple core pieces to this. There's both the ability to do it and to stay on it, but then also the ability to almost like regain your composure and your ability if you get knocked off. So many people have been in the situation where they catch a punch, they catch something, and then they kind of feel rattled a little bit, and then it's hard to get back into the flow of things too. And so that's often an important thing in the context of vision training, is how do we also at times disrupt you so that you have to get back into the flow?
Yeah, so that seems exactly like a fight. Plus what you were mentioning about focusing on one thing and seeing with your peripheral, because people always go, what should I be looking at? Like, the hands are punching at me, should I be watching hands?
Yeah.
But you can't do that, because if you watch one
I've tried.
if you watch one hand, then you lose sight of the other. So you have to, basically I tell people, like, make a triangle between the belly button and the shoulders, and then from there, you see all the limbs.
Yes.
And you have to, so that's perfect. Like this type of training, which you guys will see in a second, I'm going to run through and embarrass myself on how difficult this is. But yeah, really this is the perfect training. It almost seems like it was designed for fighters.
So Gabe, kind of typical instructions for here, what you're going to do is read the numbers off of the screen as fast as you can, like as you go, trying to get as many numbers as you can.
Many numbers.
While hitting the peripheral targets. So you got to, it's going to change before you can say all of them, but get through them and then as many peripheral targets.
Okay, and this is actually a touch screen, which is really cool. 010810819692500.
So a great part about this too is that even from the context of, the pressure of somebody watching, of somebody doing stuff, and so you kind of find your flow and you're able to hit them here.
783.
However, and we'll put a little volume on there so you can hear when you get it right and not. Now, if we then disrupt you a little bit for that too,
1, 2, 3,
okay,
6.
or get you to add in, every time I say slip, you're going to slip while you're doing it. So we'll restart it up for you.
Okay, so I'll go to my fighting stance this time, make it a little bit more.
And then that way, when you slip, and you have to come back and find your flow again.
805.
Say them louder too, so you're not just mumbling.
613.
Good. Slip.
179.
So you can see all of a sudden then you miss it out of your flow and you got to pick it back up.
291.
Slip.
335. 242. 642. 059.
Good.
806. 608. 572. 472. 089.
3 seconds left.
217.
Wonderful. So one of the really cool things about that with you, which is very noticeable, is compared to the first time we did that, your recovery to get back in the zone while you're doing it is way better. And so there's something to be said for challenging yourself with both, not only is this working on your peripheral stuff and the central piece, but you're also challenging yourself in a novel way that's requiring you to, again, get back in the zone. Because do you notice when you're doing it, like, how do you find you do it best? What are you doing when you do that the best?
So the first time I did it a couple weeks ago, I got frazzled. And the first thing you said was calm down. So I try to remind myself, just like when I fight, like take a breath, calm down. And that for me is how I fight best and how I seem to do best there. Do you mean in a different way outside that?
Well, kind of, yeah. So you're right. You kind of brought yourself down. What were you focusing on while you did that, when it felt like you could hit the targets the fastest? And
I think I just stopped focusing so much on the outside, because I find that the numbers are the part that frazzle me the most. So if I try and focus there and then there and then there and then there, I find it's too much. Like the stimulus almost gets overwhelming. So if I just calm and focus on the first 3 numbers, there's like, what, 7 there?
Yeah.
I'm not even close to getting that many. But then I can just kind of pick those off and stay just a little bit more detached from the outside.
yeah.
That seems to be the
so
easiest.
you're centering on the, like, aware of the inside, doing as much as you can, and flowing through the outside. Now, did you find, were you thinking about much while you did it?
The first couple times I was.
Okay.
Or even the first one today, when I start getting into the process, I'm definitely overthinking. And then maybe in the last 10 seconds, I felt like I'd calmed a little bit.
And what do you notice as far as a difference when you're more calm?
I find my hands just move faster.
Precisely. So, and that's actually a really neat thing that we often have to train with a lot of our athletes, is what you notice is that if you're overthinking stuff or you're thinking about things in your head, it's actually harder to process your vision completely.
Okay.
So, because it actually takes a tremendous amount of brain power to process things visually centrally and peripherally. Okay. So for example, like if you pick a target across the room to look at, so just look at any target, and I'd encourage all the viewers along, do this. It's a good way to get in the zone even before a fight. But if you pick a target to focus on, and while you're looking at that target, open up your periphery too. So keep the target clear, but almost like 3D map the rest of your room or environment around you while you're looking at it. And sort of you're aware of this whole thing. What's happening to the thoughts in your head while you do that?
I'm not really.
Okay. Now what happens if you think about what you're going to do for the rest of your day while you're doing this right now? Or if you pay attention to my snapping in front of your face?
Well, then all of a sudden I just lose focus of everything.
Precisely.
Everything else. It's just,
okay. So
much.
Very much that same thing. And so this goes both ways. What's really, really important for fighters to understand is that if they're in their head thinking, they're going to lose the ability to process the central vision and their peripheral vision at the same time in an effective way that's going to help them in the context of a fight. So it's what you did there naturally to make yourself better at that is it emphasizes that importance. And what's cool about that activity is it gives you direct feedback. The more present you are, the more calm and focused on that, and the less in your head you are, the better you perform. And if we get you in your head about that, like you were even the first day when you did it, and you got kind of frazzled, you performed not as well. Now you probably see the same thing in the ring.
of course.
I watch you fight, and one of my favorite things about you is your composure and how calm you are. But probably everyone notices they do worse when they get in their head when they're doing it, like so many other sports. So it's sort of that twofold piece. But from a visual perspective, that's one thing I'd love to emphasize with everyone who's watching is whatever you can do to get yourself into that zone will actually help you process things better visually. Otherwise, you're using the same brain power you need for your peripheral awareness on thinking.
Okay. Yeah. Jeez. It's like a whole new element to fighting, which I never considered. And I do have like a pre-fight routine where I go through this and this and this, but I'm going to add that. Just that one thing for sure. I think probably when I start my warm-up and then probably just before I walk out for the fight.
So for all the fighters on this channel, that's one of the cool things that people can take away from their warm-up is to help yourself get present in the zone, because whatever you do, you want feedback. The whole vision training part it's about feedback from each activity. So this isn't about getting better at this activity. What this activity is about is you getting the feedback to understand whether you're doing it better or not. So what you learned here is that when you're in the zone, you're not thinking, you're in that flow state, your periphery's open, you're there, you perform better. So it helps reinforce that. Okay. So a great thing when you're warming up before a fight or even between rounds, as you breathe, pick a small central target to focus at to keep clear, open that periphery up. Because if you get back in your head, you won't be able to keep it clear and keep your periphery open.
Yeah. Now, One of the concerns that a lot of people have, like, Floyd Mayweather or something like that. Yeah, Floyd Mayweather, somebody who's super focused. And I swear when I watch him, I'm like, this guy never loses focus, like whether it's mentally or with his eyesight. And it becomes like a hard thing to train because I could be in the fight and not necessarily like I'm thinking, oh, what am I going to do on my vacation a week from now? But I'll start overthinking something and then I get hit. Just because I'm like, oh, I was, not focused there, not maybe taking in everything. I don't really know what the process is, but I feel like all this will help.
Yes. So, and that's where what you can train, though, is the ability to maintain that visual awareness. Because what's broken in those moments when you're overthinking is you're going back into thinking and you're dropping out of your visual awareness. So it's no wonder you get hit. Yeah. You're less responsive. Whereas when you're really in that zone, and or lots of people talk about it as the flow state, you are able to be focusing on that triangle and aware of the periphery.
I love the broken moment. I almost want to call it that. I had a broken moment and I got hit because I lost my focus.
And that's entirely it. So from a visual perspective, you can actually train that piece of it. And then there's a bunch of other really cool little visual hacks for things you can do too. And I think there's one other really simple thing for a lot of your viewers that maybe we could give them.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
Right now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So this is a great little demo for people to do. And we're gonna do this at a higher level right now because most fighters have amazing balance for that already. But I'll show you something that's kind of interesting. So we know for fighting and many other sports, your balance is crucial. Right? And a lot of fighters have pretty good balance anyways, so we'll just kind of play with this with you at a bit of a higher level, and we'll see if some of the viewers can follow along, because this is one of those things that I'd call a very high value activity. Okay. So what I want you to do right now is actually just stand there with your feet really close together. Cool. Yep. And first, let's actually do a little bit of a demo, just so everyone can see, because again, people can follow along with this. So pick a target to look at across the room. Just look at a target. Now go to balance on one foot. Wonderful. You can just pick it totally up.
Okay.
And everyone, again, I encourage you to follow along. Wonderful, put your foot down. Now what I want you to do is actually cover up everything you can see. So take your hands, cover your eyes, except for a tiny pinhole.
In one eye?
Sure.
Okay.
Or both, either or. But cover up so you have no peripheral vision. You have a tiny pinhole that you can still see that thing through.
Yeah.
Okay, now balance on one foot.
Oh.
Okay, and you can go back to both feet. What could you feel? What was the difference?
So unstable.
Okay. And now go back to one foot with your eyes open and do that thing we did a little earlier where you really open up your sense of periphery in the room. Can you feel the difference between the two things?
Yeah, I feel like I'm stuck.
Yeah. That peripheral vision is part of how your brain understands your spatial environment and helps you balance.
Okay.
Okay? Most people don't think of that at all.
Yeah.
All right? So go back to both feet, and we're going to play with a couple little things here. Okay? So what I want you to do right now is put your feet together, close your eyes, and everyone can follow along with this. So with your eyes closed as you're standing there, Gabe, do you feel like you're pretty centered on your feet? Do you feel like you're swaying?
I feel pretty stable.
Okay.
There's always a little bit of movement, tiny amount compared to eyes open, but pretty good.
Now, with your eyes closed, let's give you some tactics to help ground yourself and become more stable.
Okay.
Okay, if you kind of breathe through your belly right now and feel your feet really in contact with the floor, really drive your awareness of the heaviness of your feet in the floor. And if you feel like you're too far forwards or too far backwards, see if you can shift the awareness of where the weight is in your feet so you feel like you're squarely planted.
Okay.
Do you have that?
I do.
Do you feel more planted now?
I do, yeah.
Great. Now, while you feel more planted, what I want you to do is move your eyes up. So they're closed, but look up. Did you feel a shift?
Yeah, I felt.
Did you feel like you moved?
I did feel like I moved.
Okay. And this is interesting because you didn't actually move. Okay. The world didn't move. Okay. But you felt like you did. Now, with your eyes still looking up, use that same awareness of your feet to re-ground yourself again, to find that center while your eyes are up. Now, what's happening here is that your brain's interpreting the fact that your eyes moved and it thinks the world moved, which is why you felt your balance shift. Okay. But the world didn't move. So we're using your awareness to repattern that. Okay, let me know when you feel centered again.
Yeah.
Great, now look down. Did you feel a shift?
Yep.
Okay, recenter yourself. Let me know when you have it.
There we go.
Good, now look to your left. Did you feel a shift?
Yeah, the left one really.
Yep.
I feel like I'm getting pulled that direction.
Yeah, precisely.
It's the same thing.
Use that awareness of your feet and the weight in the floor. And for everyone following along, same thing, use that awareness until you can find your center while your eyes are looking left.
Here we go, I got it.
Okay, now go to your right. You get a shift again?
Yes, but
Use that awareness. So what you're doing right now is you're using proprioceptive feedback and awareness from your other senses to, again, teach your brain that just because your eyes moved doesn't mean that the world moved. Okay, are you centered again?
yeah.
Cool. Now you can go back to straight ahead. Now we're going to repeat it. And you're going to do this 10 times. We're not going to do all 10 right now, but we're going to do one other one. But go up for me.
Okay.
Did you feel a shift?
I did, but it was less.
Perfect. I didn't even have to prompt you for that either. Okay, as soon as you're centered, go down.
Down, I feel actually a lot more solid now.
Good. And then go left.
That one takes a little longer, but I got it now.
And go right.
And solid.
Good. And come back to center. Open your eyes. Open your sense of periphery. How do you feel right now standing there?
Very balanced.
Okay. So what's really neat about that, and you can do this, and I'd encourage people, do this through all like various stances and all of your stuff too. If you really want to get high level, you can actually do it on one foot.
And that's how I've been training.
Sometimes when we're doing this with people with concussion recovery, we got to do it like laying on the floor. But if you're like like go 1 foot right now,
Yeah.
Close your eyes. Use that awareness to ground yourself. Breathe. Feel the pressure down through your foot.
Okay, there we go.
And then now you can try moving your eyes.
I always feel my body working, but
And the goal is, what awareness do you need to bring to where to use that proprioception better to train your brain that the world isn't moving just because your eyes are.
right.
Okay, so you can pop them open for this. But where this is really helpful is, and what you get through that 10 cycles is reinforcing to your brain that, hey brain, just because my eyes moved doesn't mean the world moved. Because if you're fighting and you move quickly and you look, and even though that doesn't cause you to feel dizzy or fall over, but if it's enough that you're getting mistaken balance information, it might be enough to just put you off of being able to quickly fire back because it takes you a fraction of a second longer to regain your balance and composure. Okay?
And that would be, I'm assuming, very applicable if you get hit and you have to.
If you get hit, even if you're like moving around and looking around as you go, you know, if you've just pivoted, you're moving your eyes.
Yes.
You know, so we talk about, yes, looking central and being aware of peripheral, but there's lots of times where you have to move your eyes in all sorts of sports, and especially in combat. But what you're doing there is, again, training your brain to regain and retain your balance, and that the world is not moving just because your eyes moved.
Okay.
Okay? And so one thing that I'd give for all the viewers for that is do that both, you know, as like an everyday part of routine. And you should be able to do it to the point where you can stand there, eyes closed, move them in the different directions and not feel your weight shift.
Okay.
Because your brain goes, hey Gabe, I recognize our eyes moved, but I know the world didn't.
So I just got to train that over and over and over because I still have that. I mean, I've only been doing it for
That's shift to
time,
it. Yeah.
but yeah, it's shortened the time where I go, okay.
But wasn't that cool? The second round through,
yes,
you could already see that feedback process at work.
yeah, a lot different.
Yeah, and then so what you want to do with that too, that's an excellent warm-up before sparring, before fighting, before training. Because again, you're getting yourself back into that awareness of those things.
Okay, that's something to add in. I never do stuff like that ever before. I just kind of, you know, you warm up, you're like, I'm sweating, let's spar.
Yeah, and then again, most people don't realize that on a micro level, every time they'd be moving their eyes, it actually throws them off balance a little bit.
I'm gonna try that actually because I have sparring this Thursday boxing and I have a guy that I'm going with who's pretty fast right now.
Yep.
I got caught the other day with a couple things, so I'm gonna try that and see if I can just a little bit more dialed in.
Yep. And so often the feedback you get from that from people is after doing that, you just feel more planted, more balanced. Like what you just felt after that. You're like, wow, I really just feel almost like more connected, more stable, which is what you want.
I'm looking forward to trying that.
So that activity for basically 10 rounds, and you should be able to get it to the point where you do not feel the world move as you do it and your responses to centering are way faster. If you have a ton of trouble with doing that standing on your feet, often what you'll do is do it laying on your back on the floor and use your awareness to feel level on the floor. But we just jump to a higher level with you right away,
Yeah.
you know, given your abilities.
Okay, yeah. Geez, that's a great one for everybody to train. Just having anything to train your eyesight that's going to help in martial arts right now is just a gift. So thank you so much for sharing with everybody and for
Anytime.
taking me on
Well, and
board.
hopefully we'll have some more really cool stuff coming for your viewers in the future.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much for joining today, guys. Again, if you're in Victoria, Optimization, Dr. McCrodin, come and check them out. I've already talked to 3 or 4 people who are going, maybe we should come in and just start getting a baseline set, just in case something happens.
Well, the baseline's always nice because, again, you look at it and you go, okay, how are things working? You know, I was in engineering before optometry, so it's a very linear kind of engineering approach. We can measure how everything's working, spot any areas for opportunity, sometimes see what you can be doing outside the ring to keep from fatiguing your vision before fights and make sure it's working properly, as well as also baselining, because sometimes after you get rocked pretty good, you want to know, you're like, hey, is this working the way it used to? I'm not totally sure, etc.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's all, I feel like it's mindset. Like, I know a guy right now who just got concussed really bad, and I think the worst part for him is going, how damaged am I?
Yeah.
He doesn't know, and that scares him. And if you
Yeah.
could have some sort of baseline where you go, okay, you know what? Here's before, here's after, we can build back up and probably even get stronger than before, that is nice.
And over half your brain's involved in vision, so it's one of the areas that can often be most impacted.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for the episode today. And guys, I hope everybody enjoyed it. If you did, please give the video a like. I'll see you back here soon for another episode.